The sun was starting to set over Riverside City as Officer Marcus Thompson sat in his patrol car on Maple Street. He had been a police officer for 8 years, and at 32 years old, he thought he knew everything about his job. But Marcus had a problem that he didn't want to admit. He treated people differently based on the color of their skin. Marcus drove slowly through the quiet neighborhood called Greenwood Hills. This area had big houses with green lawns and expensive cars. In the driveways, most of the people who lived here were white and had good jobs. Marcus felt comfortable in this neighborhood because it reminded him of where he grew up. As he turned the corner onto Oak Avenue, something caught his eye. A shiny black BMW was driving ahead of him. The car looked new and expensive. Marcus could see that the driver was a black woman, but he couldn't see her face clearly from behind. Marcus felt his chest tighten with suspicion. In his mind, he started asking questions that showed his racist thinking. What was a black woman doing driving such an expensive car? Why was she in this rich neighborhood? Maybe she stole the car, he thought. Maybe she was here to sell drugs or rob someone. These thoughts were wrong and unfair, but Marcus had been thinking this way for years. He had grown up in a family that taught him to be suspicious of black people. His father and uncles were also police officers, and they had filled his head with racist ideas when he was young. The woman driving the BMW was Dr. Angela Williams. She was 45 years old and had worked hard her whole life to get where she was. She had a college degree, then went to law school, and had been working in law enforcement for over 15 years. 3 months ago, she had been promoted to head of internal affairs for the Riverside Police Department. Internal affairs was the department that investigated when police officers did something wrong. It was Dr. Williams's job to make sure that police officers followed the rules and treated all people fairly. She had been chosen for this job because she was smart, fair, and honest. Dr. Williams was driving home after a long day at work. She had spent the day reading reports about police officers who had treated people badly. Some of these reports talked about officers who stopped black people for no good reason. She was worried about these patterns and was planning to do something about them. As she drove, Dr. Williams noticed the police car following her. She looked in her rearview mirror and saw that the officer was staying close behind her car. Her heart started beating faster. She had experienced this before, and she knew what might happen next. Even though Dr. Williams was a high-ranking police official, she was still a black woman. She knew that some police officers would see her skin color first and her job title second. This made her feel sad and angry, but she had learned to stay calm in these situations. Dr. Williams made sure she was driving exactly at the speed limit. She used her turn signals properly and kept both hands on the steering wheel where they could be easily seen. She had learned these things not from police training, but from being a black person in America. Marcus continued following the BMW for 3 more blocks. He was looking for any reason to pull her over. He watched carefully to see if she would speed, or forget to signal, or do anything that would give him an excuse to stop her. But Dr. Williams was driving perfectly. She wasn't breaking any traffic laws. Marcus was getting frustrated because he wanted to stop her, but he didn't have a legal reason to do it. Finally, Marcus decided he didn't care about having a legal reason. He had made up his mind that this black woman didn't belong in this neighborhood, and he was going to find out what she was doing there. He turned on his flashing lights and siren. When Dr. Williams saw the police lights in her mirror, she felt her stomach drop. She wasn't surprised, but she was disappointed. She had hoped she could just drive home in peace after her long day at WOK. Dr. Williams pulled her car over to the side of the road safely. She turned off the engine and put her hands on top of the steering wheel where the officer could see them. She had taught these same safety tips to her own teenage son. As she waited for the officer to approach her car, Dr. Williams thought about all the reports she had read that day. She wondered if this was the same kind of treatment that other black people had complained about. She decided that she would not tell the officer who she was right away. She wanted to see how he would treat someone he thought was just a regular citizen. Dr. Williams reached slowly for her purse to get her phone. She turned on the recording app and placed the phone where it could capture what was about to happen. If this officer was going to treat her badly, she wanted to have proof. Marcus got out of his patrol car and walked toward the BMW. He was already angry, even though the woman hadn't done anything wrong. He had decided that she was probably a criminal, and he was going to treat her that way. As Marcus walked closer to the car, he put his hand on his gun. This was not necessary because the woman was sitting quietly in her car with her hands visible. But Marcus wanted to show that he was in control and that he had power over her. Other people in the neighborhood started to notice what was happening. Mrs. Johnson, an elderly white woman who lived across the street, looked out her window and saw the police car. She had seen Dr. Williams drive by many times before and knew she lived in the neighborhood. Mrs. Johnson was confused about why she was being stopped. A teenage boy named Kevin was walking his dog when he saw the traffic stop. Kevin was white, but he had learned about racial profiling in school. He could see that something didn't look right about this situation. He took out his phone and started recording from across the street. Dr. Williams saw Marcus approaching in her side mirror. She could tell from his body language that he was aggressive and looking for trouble. She took a deep breath and prepared herself for what was about to happen. Marcus reached the driver's side window and looked down at Dr. Williams. He saw a well-dressed black woman who looked professional and calm. This made him even more suspicious. Because he expected her to look scared or guilty, the sun was almost completely down now, and the streetlights were starting to come on. The quiet neighborhood was about to become the scene of an incident that would change both of their lives forever. Marcus raised his flashlight and tapped it against the window, even though there was still enough light to see clearly. This was his way of showing disrespect and making Dr. Williams feel intimidated. Dr. Williams looked up at Marcus through the window. She could see the anger and prejudice in his eyes. She knew that the next few minutes would be very important. Not just for her, but for all the other black people who had been treated unfairly by officers like Marcus. She rolled down her window slowly and waited to see what would happen next. Marcus stood beside the BMW window, looking down at Dr. Williams with angry eyes. He had his flashlight in one hand and kept his other hand close to his gun. The evening air was getting cooler, but Marcus felt hot with the anger that was building inside him. Dr. Williams sat calmly in her car with her hand still on the steering wheel. She looked up at Marcus and could see the hatred in his face. She had seen this look before from other officers who had been reported for bad behavior. She knew she was about to experience exactly what the people in those reports had gone through. "License and registration," Marcus said in a harsh voice. He didn't say hello or explain why he had stopped her. He didn't show any basic respect that people deserved. His tone was rude and demanding, like he was talking to a criminal instead of a regular citizen. Dr. Williams spoke in a calm, polite voice. "Good evening, officer. May I ask why you pulled me over?" This simple question made Marcus even more angry. In his racist mind, he thought that black people should never question police officers. He felt that they should just do what they were told without asking any questions. "Don't you dare question me," Marcus shouted, his voice getting louder. "I asked for your license and registration. Give them to me right now." Dr. Williams felt her heart beating faster, but she kept her voice steady. "Officer, I was driving the speed limit and following all traffic laws. I just want to understand what I did wrong." Marcus stepped closer to the car and leaned down toward the window. His face was red with anger, and he was breathing heavily. "You people always think you can argue with the police. Well, let me tell you something. I'm in charge here, not you." When Marcus said, "you people," Dr. Williams knew exactly what he meant. It was a racist way of talking about black people. She had heard those words many times before, and they always made her feel hurt and angry. "I'm not arguing with you, officer," Dr. Williams said, still trying to keep the situation calm. "I'm just asking a simple question about why I was stopped." Marcus was now leaning so close to the window that Dr. Williams could smell the coffee on his breath. "You want to know why I stopped you? Because you don't belong in this neighborhood. What are you doing here anyway? You're probably here to sell drugs or steal something." Dr. Williams felt a wave of anger wash over her, but she had learned to control her emotions in situations like this. She knew that if she got angry, Marcus would use that as an excuse to arrest her or hurt her. "Officer, I live in this neighborhood," she said calmly. "I'm just driving home from work." Marcus laughed in a mean way. "Sure you do. And I'm the mayor of this city. Listen, lady, I know your type. You probably live in the projects and came here to cause trouble." The projects were low-income housing where many poor people lived. Marcus was showing his prejudice by assuming that all black people lived in poor areas. He couldn't imagine that a black woman could afford to live in an expensive neighborhood. Dr. Williams was recording everything on her phone, which was still sitting on her lap. She made sure to speak clearly so that the recording would capture every word that Marcus said. "Officer, I understand you're just doing your job, but I haven't done anything wrong. I've been cooperative and respectful. Could you please tell me the specific reason for this traffic stop?" Marcus was getting more frustrated because Dr. Williams was not acting scared or guilty like he expected. Most people would be nervous or angry by now, but she was staying calm and asking reasonable questions. This made him feel like he was losing control of the situation. "The specific reason?" Marcus said, mocking her professional way of speaking. "The specific reason is that you're driving while black in a white neighborhood. How's that for specific?" Dr. Williams couldn't believe that Marcus had just said that out loud. Driving while black was a phrase that people used to describe racial profiling by police. Marcus had just admitted that he stopped her only because of her race. Across the street, Mrs. Johnson was still watching from her window. She had known Dr. Williams for 2 years and had always found her to be a polite and friendly neighbor. Mrs. Johnson was shocked by what she was seeing and hearing. Kevin, the teenager with the dog, was still recording everything on his phone. He was standing about 30 feet away, but he could hear Marcus shouting. Kevin's dog was getting nervous because of all the tension in the air. 2 more neighbors had come outside to see what was happening. Mr. Rodriguez, who lived next door to Dr. Williams, recognized her car and was confused about why she was being stopped. He took out his phone and started recording too. Marcus noticed that people were watching and recording, but he didn't care. He was too angry to think clearly about what he was doing. He was making the situation worse with every word he spoke. "Step out of the vehicle," Marcus ordered, pointing at Dr. Williams. "Right now." Dr. Williams knew that she had to be very careful. When police officers ordered people out of their cars, it often led to violence or arrests. She needed to protect herself while still following the officer's commands. "Officer, I'm going to need to reach for my purse to get my license and registration," she said clearly, making sure her voice was loud enough for the recording devices to pick up. "I'm going to move very slowly and keep my hands visible." "I said get out of the car," Marcus shouted even louder. "Stop stalling and do what I tell you." Dr. Williams took a deep breath. "I'm not stalling, officer. I'm trying to follow your instructions safely. You asked for my license and registration, and now you're asking me to step out. I just want to make sure I understand what you want me to do." Marcus was now completely out of control. He put his hand on his gun and took a step back from the car. "Hands where I can see them. You're being non-compliant and resisting arrest." Dr. Williams had not resisted anything. She had been polite and cooperative the entire time. Marcus was making false accusations that could be used to justify violence against her. "Officer, I am not resisting," Dr. Williams said firmly. My hands are visible on the steering wheel. I have been cooperative and respectful throughout this entire interaction. Marcus pulled out his handcuffs and held them up where Dr. Williams could see them. You're going to jail tonight, lady. I'm going to search your car and find whatever drugs you've got hidden in there. Dr. Williams knew that Marcus had no legal right to search her car. She hadn't broken any traffic laws, and he had no evidence that she had committed any crime. He was violating her constitutional rights. Officer, I do not consent to any search of my vehicle, she said clearly. I have not broken any laws, and you have no probable cause to search my car. This made Marcus even more angry. Don't you tell me about the law. I've been a cop for 8 years, and I know what I can and can't do. But Marcus was wrong about the law, and Dr. Williams knew it. She had studied constitutional law in law school and had worked in law enforcement long enough to know her rights. Marcus was making illegal threats and violating proper police procedures. The situation was getting more dangerous by the minute. Marcus was out of control, and Dr. Williams was trapped in her car with an angry, armed officer who was clearly willing to abuse his power. She looked in her rearview mirror and saw that more people had come outside to watch. She hoped that all the witnesses and recordings would protect her from whatever Marcus was planning to do next. Dr. Williams knew that she had to make a decision. She could reveal who she was and end this situation quickly, or she could continue to experience what regular citizens went through when they encountered officers like Marcus. She decided to wait a little longer. She wanted to see just how far Marcus would go with his illegal behavior. As the head of internal affairs, she needed to understand the full extent of the problem she was dealing with in her department. Marcus was now pacing back and forth beside her car, talking to himself and getting ready to do something that would change both of their lives forever. Marcus was breathing heavily as he paced beside Dr. Williams's car. His face was red with anger, and sweat was forming on his forehead despite the cool evening air. He kept touching his gun and looking at the handcuffs in his other hand. The situation had gotten completely out of control, and Marcus was about to make it even worse. Dr. Williams sat in her car, watching Marcus through her side mirror. She could see that he was getting more dangerous by the minute. She had dealt with many unstable officers in her job, but experiencing it firsthand was much more frightening than reading about it in reports. The neighborhood around them had become like a small theater. At least 6 people were now watching from their yards and windows. 3 of them were recording everything on their phones. Mrs. Johnson had called her husband to come outside and see what was happening. Mr. Rodriguez was standing on his front porch, ready to call 911 if things got worse. Kevin, the teenager with the dog, had moved closer so he could hear better. His dog was pulling on the leash, wanting to go home, but Kevin knew he was witnessing something important. He kept his phone camera focused on Marcus and made sure the audio was recording clearly. I'm giving you one last chance, Marcus shouted at Dr. Williams. Get out of that car right now, or I'm going to drag you out. Dr. Williams knew she had to make a choice quickly. Marcus was clearly planning to use physical force against her. She could reveal her identity now and stop this madness, or she could continue to experience what regular citizens went through. She decided to give Marcus one more chance to do the right thing. Officer, I'm going to step out of the car, she said calmly. But first, I need to reach for my purse to get my license and registration, like you asked for earlier. Marcus stopped pacing and stared at her. Fine, but move slowly and keep your hands where I can see them. Dr. Williams reached very carefully for her purse. She made sure to announce every movement she made. I'm reaching for my purse now. I'm moving slowly. I'm getting my wallet. She pulled out her wallet and removed her driver's license and car registration. As she did this, she noticed her police department ID card was right next to her license. For a moment, she thought about showing it to Marcus, but she decided to wait. Here are my documents, Dr. Williams said, holding them out the window. Marcus, snatched the papers from her hand roughly. He looked at the license quickly, then stormed back to his patrol car to run her information through the computer system. He was hoping to find something that would justify his behavior. Maybe she had unpaid tickets, or a criminal record, or anything that would make him look like he was doing his job correctly. Dr. Williams watched Marcus in her rearview mirror as he sat in his patrol car. She knew that in a few seconds, her identity would appear on his computer screen. She wondered how he would react when he discovered who she really was. Marcus typed Dr. Williams's name into the police computer system. He was still angry and expecting to find dirt on her. In his racist mind, he was sure that a black woman driving an expensive car in a rich neighborhood had to be involved in something illegal. The computer screen loaded slowly. Marcus tapped his fingers impatiently on the steering wheel as he waited for the results. He was already planning what charges he would make up against Dr. Williams. Then the information appeared on the screen, and Marcus felt like he had been hit by a truck. The screen showed Williams, Angela Marie, employee ID 2847, Department, Riverside Police, rank, Head of Internal Affairs, clearance level, Executive badge, number 001EA. Marcus stared at the screen with his mouth open. He read the information over and over again, hoping he was seeing it wrong. But there it was, clear as day. The woman he had been harassing and threatening was not just a police officer. She was the head of Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs was the department that investigated police officers when they did something wrong. It was like the police for the police. And Dr. Angela Williams was the boss of that entire department. Marcus felt his stomach drop like he was on a roller coaster. His hands started shaking as he realized what this meant. The head of Internal Affairs had just experienced his racist behavior firsthand. She had recorded evidence of everything he had said and done. Marcus looked at the screen again and saw more information. Dr. Williams had been with the police department for 15 years. She had a law degree from the state university. She had received numerous awards for excellence in law enforcement. Her supervisor was listed as the chief of police himself. The computer also showed Dr. Williams's home address, and Marcus realized with horror that it was right here in Greenwood Hills, just 3 blocks away. She really did live in this neighborhood. She hadn't been lying about anything. Marcus sat in his patrol car, staring at the computer screen and trying to figure out what to do. His career was over, he was sure of that. But he was also worried about going to jail. What he had done tonight was not just against department policy, it was against the law. He thought about all the racist things he had said to Dr. Williams. He had accused her of selling drugs. He had said she didn't belong in the neighborhood. He had admitted to stopping her for driving while black. He had threatened to search her car without cause. He had threatened to arrest her for no reason. Marcus realized that Dr. Williams probably had recordings of everything. With all the witnesses around, there would be no way to deny what had happened. His racist behavior had been captured on multiple cameras and phones. He looked in his rearview mirror and saw Dr. Williams still sitting calmly in her car. She was waiting patiently for him to return with her documents. She didn't look scared or angry. She looked like someone who was in complete control of the situation. Marcus thought about his family. His wife worked as a teacher, and his 2 young children went to school in this same district. How would he explain to them that he had lost his job for being racist? How would he pay the bills without his police salary? He also thought about the other officers in his department. Many of them knew he had problems with race, but they had always covered for him or looked the other way. Now there would be no hiding his behavior. Everyone would know what kind of person he really was. Marcus looked at the computer screen one more time. At the bottom, he saw something that made his blood run cold. There was a note that said, "Current investigation, racial profiling. Patterns, department-wide review in progress." This meant that Dr. Williams had already been investigating officers like him. She had probably been looking at his record and the complaints against him. Tonight's incident wasn't just bad luck. It was like walking into a trap that he had set. For himself, Marcus knew he had to go back to Dr. Williams's car and face her. He couldn't sit in his patrol car forever. But he also knew that when he walked back to her window, his life as a police officer would be over. He took a deep breath and looked at himself in his rearview mirror. The angry, confident officer who had stopped Dr. Williams was gone. In his place was a scared man who had just realized his racist actions had finally caught up with him. Marcus opened his car door slowly. His legs felt weak as he stood up. The walk back to Dr. Williams's car felt like the longest walk of his life. He could feel all the neighbors watching him, and he knew they could see that something had changed. As he approached the BMW, Marcus could see Dr. Williams watching him in her side mirror. She looked calm and patient, like she was waiting to see what he would do next. Marcus reached the driver's side window and looked down at Dr. Williams. This time, he couldn't meet her eyes. His hand was shaking as he held out her license and registration. "Ma'am," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, I need to apologize." Dr. Williams looked up at him with a calm expression. She could see the fear in his eyes and knew that he had discovered who she was. "Oh?" she said in a steady voice. "What exactly are you apologizing for, Officer Thompson?" Marcus realized that she was going to make him say it out loud. She wasn't going to make this easy for him. She wanted him to admit what he had done wrong. The neighbors were still watching and recording. Marcus knew that whatever he said next would be captured on video and could be used as evidence against him. He stood there, trembling, knowing that his life was about to change forever. Marcus stood beside Dr. Williams's car, holding her documents with shaking hands. The confident, angry officer from 20 minutes ago was completely gone. In his place stood a frightened man who finally understood that his racist behavior had serious consequences. Dr. Williams looked up at Marcus and could see the fear in his eyes. She knew that he had discovered her identity, but she wasn't going to make this easy for him. She wanted him to face what he had done and admit his mistakes. Out loud, "I asked you a question, Officer Thompson," Dr. Williams said in a calm but firm voice. "What exactly are you apologizing for?" Marcus's mouth felt dry. He looked around and saw all the neighbors still watching and recording. He knew that whatever he said would be captured on video and could be used as evidence. But he also knew he couldn't lie anymore. I may have been too aggressive," Marcus said quietly, looking down at the ground. Dr. Williams raised her eyebrows. "Too aggressive? Is that what you call it?" She slowly opened her car door and stepped out. Marcus automatically took a step back, even though Dr. Williams was much smaller than him. The power between them had completely shifted, and they both knew it. Dr. Williams stood up to her full height and looked directly at Marcus. She was wearing a professional business suit and looked every bit like the high-ranking police official she was. The neighbors could now see her clearly, and several of them recognized her as the friendly woman who lived down the street. "Officer Thompson," Dr. Williams said, her voice carrying the authority of someone used to being in charge. "Let me tell you what really happened here tonight." Marcus nodded weakly, unable to speak. "You followed my car for 3 blocks without any legal reason to do so," Dr. Williams continued. "You pulled me over without probable cause. You immediately became aggressive and disrespectful. You made racist assumptions about why I was in this neighborhood." With each word, Marcus felt smaller and more ashamed. He wanted to disappear, but he knew he had to face what he had done. "You accused me of selling drugs," Dr. Williams went on. "You said I didn't belong in this neighborhood. You told me I probably lived in the projects. You admitted to stopping me for driving while black. You threatened to search my car without my consent. You threatened to arrest me without cause." Marcus realized that Dr. Williams had been paying attention to every single thing he had said. She had a perfect memory of his racist behavior, and probably had it all recorded too. "And now," Dr. Williams said, "you want to apologize for being too aggressive?" Marcus finally looked up and met her eyes. "No, ma'am. What I did was much worse than that." "Then tell me what you did," Dr. Williams said. "I want to hear you say it." Marcus took a deep breath. He knew his career was over, but maybe if he was honest now, he could at least try to do the right thing. "I racially profiled you," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "I stopped you because you're black and you were driving an expensive car in a white neighborhood. I made racist assumptions about you. I violated your constitutional rights. I abused my power as a police officer." Dr. Williams nodded. "And?" Marcus looked confused. "And ... and what, ma'am?" "This isn't the first time you've done this, is it?" Dr. Williams asked. Marcus felt his stomach drop again. He realized that she already knew about his past behavior. "No, ma'am, it's not the first time. How many other people have you treated this way?" Dr. Williams asked. Marcus thought about all the black drivers he had stopped over the years, all the families he had harassed, all the young men he had searched. Without cause, he couldn't even remember them all. "I don't know," he admitted. "Too many." Dr. Williams reached into her purse and pulled out her police badge and identification. She held them up where Marcus and all the witnesses could see them clearly. "Officer Thompson," she said, "I am Dr. Angela Williams, head of internal affairs for the Riverside Police Department. For the past 3 months, I have been investigating a pattern of racial profiling in our department. Your name has come up in that investigation multiple times." Marcus felt like he might faint. Not only had he been caught in the act tonight, but Dr. Williams had already been building a case against him. "Tonight," Dr. Williams continued, "you have given me a first-hand experience of exactly what the complainants in my investigation have been describing. You have provided me with perfect evidence of the systematic racism that exists in our department." Kevin, the teenager who had been recording, moved closer so he could hear better. He couldn't believe he was witnessing such an important moment. Mrs. Johnson was calling her neighbors to tell them what was happening. Mr. Rodriguez was shaking his head in disgust at Marcus's behavior. "Dr. Williams," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I know I messed up. I know my career is over. But please don't let this hurt my family. My wife and kids don't deserve to suffer because of what I did." Dr. Williams looked at Marcus with a mixture of anger and sadness. "Officer Thompson, did you think about the families of all the people you've harassed over the years? Did you care about the children who watched their parents get humiliated by police officers like you?" Marcus had never thought about it that way before. He had always focused on his own feelings and his own problems. He had never considered how his actions affected other people's families. "No, ma'am," he admitted. "I never thought about that." "Well, maybe it's time you started thinking about it," Dr. Williams said. "Because your actions tonight, and all the actions that came before tonight, have consequences that go far beyond just you." Dr. Williams pulled out her phone and showed Marcus that she had been recording their entire conversation. "This recording, along with all the witness videos, will be part of my official report. It will be reviewed by the chief of police, the mayor, and possibly the FBI." Marcus's knees felt weak. The FBI meant federal charges, civil rights violations, possible jail time. "But Dr. Williams," Marcus said desperately, "I can change. I can learn to be better. Please give me another chance." "Dr." Williams shook her head. "Officer Thompson, you've had 8 years of chances. You've had training on proper police procedures. You've had diversity training. You've had multiple complaints against you that were brushed aside. How many more chances do you think you deserve?" Marcus knew she was right. He had been given many opportunities to change his behavior, but he had chosen not to. He had continued to treat black people badly because he thought he could get away with it. "Tonight was different though," Dr. Williams said. Tonight, you didn't just violate department policy. You violated the civil rights of a citizen while wearing a badge. That's supposed to represent justice and protection for all people. She paused and looked around at all the neighbors who were watching. And you did it in front of multiple witnesses with everything being recorded. You have provided perfect evidence of your own misconduct. Dr. Williams put her badge and ID back in her purse. Officer Thompson, you are going to face serious consequences for your actions. Not just from the police department, but from the legal system. What you did tonight was not just wrong, it was criminal. Marcus felt tears forming in his eyes. For the first time in his life, he was truly understanding the impact of his racist behavior. He wasn't just losing his job, he was facing the possibility of going to prison. "I'm sorry," Marcus said, and for the first time, he really meant it. "I'm sorry for what I did to you tonight, and I'm sorry for what I've done to other people over the years." Dr. Williams looked at him for a long moment. "I believe you are sorry, Officer Thompson. But being sorry doesn't undo the harm you've caused, and it doesn't mean you won't face the consequences of your actions." She got back into her car and started the engine. "I suggest you contact a lawyer, Officer Thompson. You're going to need one." As Dr. Williams drove away, Marcus stood alone on the street, surrounded by neighbors who had witnessed his downfall. He knew that by tomorrow morning, his life would never be the same again. The reckoning had begun. The next morning, Dr. Williams arrived at the Riverside Police Department headquarters earlier than usual. She had spent most of the night writing her official report about the incident with Officer Marcus Thompson. The report was detailed and included timestamps, exact quotes, and descriptions of every violation that had occurred. Dr. Williams sat at her desk and reviewed the evidence she had collected. Her phone recording captured Marcus's racist comments clearly. The witness videos from the neighbors showed his aggressive behavior. The police computer logs proved that he had run her information and discovered her identity. Everything was documented perfectly. At 8 a.m. sharp, Dr. Williams walked to the office of Chief Robert Martinez. She knocked on his door and waited for permission to enter. Chief Martinez was a fair man who had hired Dr. Williams specifically because he wanted to clean up problems in his department. "Come in, Angela," Chief Martinez said, looking up from his coffee. "You're here early today." Dr. Williams sat down across from his desk and placed a thick folder in front of him. "Chief, I need to report a serious incident that occurred last night involving one of our officers." Chief Martinez opened the folder and began reading. As he read Dr. Williams's report, his face became more and more serious. When he saw Marcus Thompson's name, he shook his head sadly. He had received complaints about Marcus before, but they had never been this clear or well documented. "This is very serious, Angela," Chief Martinez said after reading the entire report. "This officer violated multiple department policies and federal civil rights laws." "Yes, Chief," Dr. Williams replied. "And this incident fits the pattern of behavior I've been investigating for the past 3 months. Officer Thompson has been reported by at least 12 different citizens for similar conduct." Chief Martinez picked up his phone and called the department's legal advisor. Within an hour, lawyers, internal affairs investigators, and federal officials were reviewing the case. Everyone agreed that Marcus Thompson's actions were not just against department policy, they were criminal. Meanwhile, Marcus was at home, unable to sleep. He had told his wife Sarah what had happened, and she was shocked and disappointed. Sarah was a schoolteacher who had always believed her husband was a good police officer. Learning about his racist behavior broke her heart. "How could you treat people that way?" Sarah asked Marcus as they sat in their kitchen. "How could you say those terrible things?" Marcus looked at his wife and realized he didn't have a good answer. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I guess I learned it from my father and uncles. They always talked about black people in negative ways, and I just accepted it as true." Sarah shook her head. That's not an excuse, Marcus. You're an adult. You chose to treat people badly, and now our whole family is going to suffer because of your choices. Their two children, ages 8 and 10, didn't fully understand what was happening, but they could sense that something was very wrong. Marcus realized that his racist actions weren't just going to hurt his career, they were going to hurt the people he loved most. At 10 a.m., Marcus's phone rang. It was his supervisor, Lieutenant Davis. "Thompson, you need to come to the station." Immediately, Lieutenant Davis said in a serious voice, "Bring your badge, your gun, and all your department equipment." Marcus knew what this meant. He was being suspended and probably fired. He drove to the police station with his stomach in knots, knowing that this might be the last time he ever wore his police uniform. When Marcus arrived at the station, he was escorted to a conference room where several officials were waiting for him. Chief Martinez was there, along with Dr. Williams, the department's legal advisor, and a representative from the FBI. "Officer Thompson," Chief Martinez began, "you are being suspended immediately pending a full investigation into your conduct. You are also being informed that federal charges may be filed against you for violation of civil rights under color of law." Marcus felt dizzy as he heard these words. Federal charges meant he could go to prison for several years. His police career was definitely over, and his future looked very dark. Dr. Williams spoke next. "Officer Thompson, as part of my investigation into racial profiling in this department, I will be reviewing every traffic stop you have made in the past 5 years. Every complaint against you will be reopened and thoroughly investigated." Marcus realized that Dr. Williams wasn't just going after him for last night's incident. She was going to expose his entire pattern of racist behavior over many years. Other victims would come forward and more charges would probably be filed. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Marcus was required to turn in his badge, his gun, his police car keys, and all his department equipment. He was told not to contact any other officers or interfere with the investigation in any way. When Marcus left the police station, he was no longer a police officer. He was just a regular citizen who was facing serious criminal charges. The news of Marcus's suspension spread quickly through the police department and the community. The neighbors who had witnessed the incident the night before were interviewed by investigators. Their videos and testimony provided powerful evidence of Marcus's misconduct. Mrs. Johnson, the elderly neighbor, told investigators that she had always found Dr. Williams to be a wonderful neighbor. "She's always been polite and friendly," Mrs. Johnson said. "What that officer did to her was terrible and wrong." Kevin, the teenager who had recorded the incident, became a local hero for documenting the truth. His video was shared on social media and viewed by thousands of people. Many viewers praised him for having the courage to record what he saw. Within a week, the FBI formally charged Marcus Thompson with violation of civil rights under color of law. This was a federal crime that carried a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. Marcus hired a lawyer, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. Dr. Williams used the incident to push for major reforms in the police department. She presented her findings to the city council and demanded changes in how officers were trained and supervised. "This incident shows that we have a serious problem with racial bias in our department," Dr. Williams told the city council. "We need better training, stronger oversight, and real consequences for officers who violate people's rights." The city council agreed and approved funding for new anti-bias training for all officers. They also created a civilian oversight board to review complaints against police officers. Dr. Williams was put in charge of implementing these reforms. 6 months later, Marcus Thompson pled guilty to federal civil rights violations and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. He also lost his police pension and was banned from ever working in law enforcement again. During his sentencing hearing, Marcus spoke to the court about what he had learned. I realize now that my actions hurt innocent people and damage the trust between police and the community, he said. I take full responsibility for my behavior, and I'm committed to becoming a better person. Several of Marcus's victims spoke at the hearing too. They described how his racist treatment had affected their lives and their children's lives. Their stories helped the judge understand the full impact of Marcus's actions. Dr. Williams also spoke at the hearing. Officer Thompson's case represents a turning point for our department, she said. We are committed to ensuring that this kind of behavior never happens again. After Marcus was sentenced, Dr. Williams continued her work reforming the police department. She investigated dozens of other officers and found several more cases of racial profiling. Some officers were fired, others were retrained, and the entire culture of the department began to change. The incident between Dr. Williams and Marcus Thompson became a case study in police academies across the country. It showed how racial profiling could be stopped when the right person was in the right place at the right time. 3 years later, when Marcus was released from prison, he had a very different understanding of race and justice. He began working with community organizations to educate people about the dangers of racism and the importance of treating all people with respect. Dr. Williams had become a national leader in police reform. She was invited to speak at conferences and help other cities improve their police departments. She had turned a painful experience into a force for positive change. The neighborhood where the incident occurred also changed. The residents became more aware of racial issues and more willing to speak up when they saw injustice. They learned that everyone has a role to play in creating a fair and just community. The story of Dr. Williams and Marcus Thompson showed that justice was possible, but only when people were willing to stand up for what was right and hold others accountable for their actions. It proved that change could happen, even in the face of deep-rooted racism and abuse of power.